Hello, and welcome to MikeyPod Podcast 260 for April 20th, 2026. Today's guest is writer and performer Mike Albo. We'll be talking about his new and fantastic audiobook, Hologram Boyfriends, Sex, Love, and Overconnection, which is, well, I already said it. It's fantastic. I'm your host, Michael Herron. I'm a composer, pianist, electronic musician, storyteller based in New York City. On this podcast, I have conversations with fellow creators about their work, their process, and the questions they're asking and answering with their creative lives. I've been making this podcast for over 2 decades. If you want to stay connected, you can subscribe in your favorite podcast app by searching MikeyPod. Visit MikeyPod.com. I always love to hear from you, so you can find me as @MichaelHerron on social or email me at michael@MikeyPod.com. And this is on YouTube now too, so I'm kind of trying that out, seeing what it's like to post this as a video after hundreds of audio-only episodes. So it has been a little bit of time. There's been a lot going on, and I'm kind of, after a dry spell, I guess, of doing work, I'm back. It's a little tricky to navigate everything. So I'm back with the podcast. A few other things have gone on, and I've been using Patreon as a hub for posting about and keeping up to date with all my various projects. Lots of public posts there, so you could subscribe and not subscribe with money and stay on top of things. If you do subscribe $5 or more, you get a bonus episode with every podcast and a bunch of other stuff, and you'll get all the old blah blah blah. That's enough about Patreon. So this conversation with Mike Albo was an absolute blast. I had a great time talking to him. We're both around the same age, and so we came of age around the same period of time during the AIDS crisis. And we've both been in this sort of same timeline of watching the internet become a big thing, people becoming connected differently. So it was really cool to talk about that, about connection, digital connection. And that's a lot of what his book is about too. So this interview really did stick with me. I love it. I can't wait to share it with you. And this is a perfect way to come back from absence of episodes. Let's do the interview. Just to make sure you know, Mike Albo is a writer and performer whose novels include Hornito The Underminer and Another Dimension of Us, alongside the memoirette Spermhood and the novella The Junket. He's written for The New Yorker, New York Times, GQ, and TED. He's just had a TED Talk. He does so much. And he was the critical shopper columnist for the New York Times. His solo shows have toured the US, Canada, and the UK. All right. Yeah, that's it. Let's get to the interview with Mike Albo. Joining me now on the podcast is Mike Albo, writer, performer, and author of a bunch of different things, including Hologram Boyfriends, Sex, Love, and Overconnection, which is out now on Macmillan Audio. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi there. Nice to be here.
Yes, I'm really happy you're here. This is actually our second try at this recording, and I'm super grateful that you're back. The thing that's good news is I hadn't finished listening to the book when I talked to you last time, and now I have. So that's exciting. Can you give a rundown of what this is? It's an audio only book, essays with a great through line.
Yeah, it's a kind of a new world or foray, I suppose, for publishers to do sort of audio first books. I think my publisher, Macmillan, was trying to get into the audio game. You know, the audio space is very lucrative or not so lucrative, but just lucrative for publishers right now. So they came up with this idea of an audio original. So it's a book length project. It's about 6.5 hours long, and it's me narrating. And it's a series of essays that kind of talk about my pursuit of love and sex and connection before and after the smartphone came along, and I could start carrying my desire around in my pocket, and it became portable. And just sort of comparing and contrasting the time before and after, but then also kind of exploring desire and what desire is and how it's an energy. And when I started thinking about desires and energy, it really led to a lot of different feelings about where it is and who controls it and what's happening with my own desire over the years.
Yeah, that like it really resonated with me. I almost said most importantly, but I don't think that's the most important thing. We're of similar ages, both gay men, so I've been through this sort of same timeline as you. I'm
Yeah.
mid-50s, having been through this transition of all of us living, I was going to say in real life, and now the way we live in real life on the internet, like, and
Yeah.
in apps, and yeah, it's this topic I've been thinking a lot about it because I'm starting to write about this kind of thing too, and it's so hard to put a finger on like what identity is
Mm.
when we have different ways of being who we are. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it feels very like a. Does that make any sense or resonate with you?
Yeah, it
Like what I'm
does.
getting at?
Yes, and I discuss in Hologram Boyfriends that I trace how shame-filled I was about looking for sex online in the beginning. And there's a time when no one showed their faces and it was just like this sort of illicit thing. And in discussing sort of the pros and cons of our life now, our like half robot brains that we have now, um, there is less shame, especially for gay guys. We have less shame about who we are, and um, and I think that's healthy. And it can become non-healthy, but
Yeah,
I think for the most part, it's such a different time now, um, than it was when I feel like when I started kind of going online and looking around and dating online and stuff like that, for lack of a better word. Uh, that was like the mid 2000s maybe, and just over the years how that's changed and how that's sort of opened up and become something that people just widely discuss, including me, is kind of cool in a way.
yeah,
But at the same time, there you do see a lot of darkness online. You see a lot of people being mean, you know, sizeism, for lack of a better word.
mm-hmm,
No fats, no femmes. Uh, people with this strange kind of anger, and I've never really been able to quite articulate it in a snappy like something that people would see on Instagram and while they're lying in bed. But I do think that people still don't recognize that their online selves are themselves. That you're I think they think that it's something different, so they can be as completely racist as possible, but it somehow doesn't reflect on their body or something. um, but there's a that persona that you have online is your persona. It's you, and it's a part of you, and I think that sometimes people forget that, and sometimes I forget that, and I think there's a lot of emotional baggage from being online all this time too, um, that I've tried to really sort of explore in Hologram Boyfriends.
yeah. It. I noticed it today when I was re-listening at the end. Um, I think I noticed it before, but it sort of hit me in a different way. The you talk a lot about our digital connections. If I'm, you know, that yeah, that's it. But also, you talk a lot about your spiritual life too, which is like an interesting juxtaposition. Um, it's your experience, but I want was there like an intention behind making sure you covered both aspects of yourself in the book?
Well, it kind of just sort of it kind of flowed out of me this way, and in a way, it's almost like a period piece because I got the assignment from Macmillan to write this in. I think I finally got my first, very small section, third of my advance in March 2024, and that's when I sort of started concertedly looking at this. And I wrote it. I really started really writing it in August of 2024 and then finished it in December of 2024. So there's this kind of like bracket of time when my antenna were up and I was really thinking about desire and where desire lives in my body and how I've how it's an energy and how I've used it as energy and how it's been exploited as an energy. When I started thinking about that subject, all these crazy things started happening to me. So, um, and they were both, you know, things that affected me spiritually and things that affected my body. And you know, at the time I was really delving into what energy is. When people talk about energy, I'm like, how can my body have energy? I never really understood that expression. And it was really, and I read, you know, several books, quite esoteric about, you know, channeling energy or the way people think about energy. And then it reminded me of some essays and articles I wrote in the past, about sexuality and energy. So everything sort of converged together, and I think that's why there's this spiritual element to it, because it just sort of was part of it, you know, part of my exploration.
Yeah. It's so like I'm in a really interesting space thinking about all this stuff right now. So I think I'm overly concerned about not making sense when I start trying to talk about it, but I'm going to try. I really feel this sort of like our digital energy isn't really part of our bodies, but it is now a thing that we're like putting into the world. And it, it's just because I've been thinking about this so much, I'm really like, okay, so how did that start? When did I start um, relating to people digitally?
Yeah.
This are you a Laurie Anderson fan?
Yeah, totally.
I almost should have guessed that you were. Um, there's a thing like all the way back in United States Lives where she's talking about like there's a line that she says, I always think of it, where it's like, oh, it's so digital, man. Like, and at that time it was like everyone was just like
Yeah.
getting access to computers. Um, I think I'm just mentioning that because it popped into my head. But like uh, I can remember the first my first interaction with my dad was or he's still alive, a systems analyst, and he brought home this thing like in the late '70s, like a terminal that you just plug a phone into, and it typed everything. It's a moment I track back to of like being amazed at like this. I was connect. I don't even know who. I was a little kid, so I don't know. It was probably someone he worked with that we were interacting with. But it's just like kind of observing that timeline as an adult. Your book kind of like plugs into that for me in the way that I'm like gathering what this means to me.
Yeah. And I think, you know, early on when I talk about, you know, when friend became a verb and we were friending each other, and
Yeah.
and you know, when Facebook first started, I'd say, well, you know, I kind of touch on Friendster and MySpace and those spaces as well, but um I was just, you know, I'm a Gemini rising. All I want to do is connect with people, and like to suddenly be able to talk to people across the world and friend everyone. I was like, this is great. You know, um, I, you know, it's hard for me. It would be hard for me to stop connecting with people in online, because I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm no influencer. I don't spend hours and hours a day doing it, but I do respond to people. I do like to connect with people. I like to get messages from people. So you know, the way that we are connecting with each other so much more easily, I think is huge for our brains. You know, it's a big change.
Yeah. Um, I saw a video this morning that folds into this, and in an ironic way too. It's a bunch of it's clearly an AI made video of these kids talking about how great it was living in the '90s when everything was low tech. Um, so two things happening. Like this is an AI video, and you're telling us how great it was before this existed. And like all most of the things they said, I was like, oh yeah, I actually like it better without that. Like I'm happy that I have the internet, and I'm happy that I could stream music and watch movies and stay like you were talking about being connected to all these people. I didn't like being outside when I was a little kid, so I don't care that that I was able to stay out until the street lights went off. Um, it's just really interesting watching those things as an I don't know if I'm an elder yet, but like as an elder person who was experiencing that, and could be like I experienced it more in the 80s and late 70s, but like, oh yeah, those, I mean, I don't have the same sort of fondness for any of that.
Mm,
I appreciate where we're at now. I mean, of course, like you mentioned, like people show their worst selves on the internet.
yeah.
um I don't know, any thoughts about that?
Well, it's one thing I've been thinking about lately is I've been trying to figure out a way to write an op-ed about this, but uh, you know, with the popularity of heated rivalry, just suddenly everyone is sexually objectifying gay men, and it's so easy to see hot guys, like, and it's almost too easy to see hot guys. It's almost too much, in my opinion. Like, and then I think about the time before, and I write about this in Hologram Boyfriends, when I was obsessed with John Eric Hexum as a teenager, and had to wait until 8 p.m. on Tuesdays or whenever it was for the one chance to see him. And and then I talk in Hologram Boyfriends like how you can Google him now and call up all his pictures, and there's even on YouTube like just how beautiful was John Eric Hexum, and there's like a they measure his eyes to nose ratio and everything. um and there's just so much sexual content out there for anyone to consume at all times. And it really spreads your desire in all directions. uh and I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's kind of like there's a similarity might be how I know that in the movie business they're trying to lengthen the time that movies are in theaters to save theaters. And I think people need four walls around them to be able to live healthy lives. So maybe there's something good about having a little bit of a restraint. Um, it might be more healthy. And so I see both sides so easily about the positive aspects of all this content and all this access, and the negative aspects.
Yeah, there's a well, I mentioned John Eric Hexum when we talked in our practice interview. um when you were going through the list of like hot guys in, I guess that was the 80s.
Yeah.
I was listening like, oh, he's not gonna say my favorite. He's not gonna say my favorite. He said my favorite is John Eric Hexum. Like,
I mean, the
and
most beautiful of all.
yeah, and I know exactly what you mean. That feeling like I had, like, I don't remember how I did it because I was closeted and living in Tyler, Texas at the time. So it was small town Baptist. But I was like, I had a little collection of like pictures of him that I cut out of magazines. And there was one, I don't know if you saw it, I was a piano music kid, of him playing the piano. I think it's in People magazine or something. I was like, oh, he plays the piano just like
Wow.
me. Like, yeah. But it was something about that little, having that little collection
Yep.
of John Eric Hexum pictures
Yep.
was kind of great. Like in that way, like being limited in that way. I, I experience it with music too. Like so many artists, I'm like, oh, I should really check this artist out. And I'll look at my Apple library and be like, oh, I already did check this artist out. And I never managed to really listen to it because there's just so much music that's
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's the same sort of realm, but
Yeah. And I think another aspect of the way the desire works now, especially for gay men, is uh, you know, we're marketable now. I don't think gay men were really marketable in the large way that they are now, especially post heated rivalry. So suddenly everyone's objectifying gay men and making it it's becoming part of the machine. Um, Whereas before, when we were obsessing over John Eric Hexum, that wasn't directed towards us in any way. That was directed towards women, and we just happened to be, in the back. No one gave a shit about marketing to us,
yeah,
um, or appealing to us, or a gay man being a sexual being for public consumption. That was just not something that people did. Um, and so now it's such another moment of cultural whiplash for me is that happening now, like where um, gay men are becoming sexually marketable, you know?
Yeah. Cultural whiplash is a great way of describing it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel that I almost hate saying this because I'm, of course, happy that there's less homophobia than there used to be. However, I really felt like a special snowflake when I
Yeah.
was gay and hated more than I am now. Like, I mean, that wasn't what I was happy about, but I felt like there was something special about me that made me like edgy. And
Hmm.
now, like, especially being a white male gay of an age, even though I'm a broke artist, so I don't get that part of
Right.
the privilege. I feel like we are the least edgy of the queer world now, and I feel slightly resentful about it, I have to say.
That's funny. I have a slightly different take on that because I feel like we as I talk about this in Hologram Boyfriends too, that gay men in particular, and I would say white gay men, but I think most gay men of our race, any race, um, are are always not considered. We're always a couple rungs down. Whether it's we were, pariahs during the AIDS crisis or before when we were considered, we're not really considered by society to be what's good about civilization, and people think of us as decorative parts of civilization that we come later when a civilization uh, gets its you know nice heterosexual religious paraphernalia, and but then gay men come along and we kind of like are part of the the this third wave of what civilizations do, and sometimes we're considered decadent and disgusting because of that. And I think it's really hard for people to see gay men as timeless and as 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 a type of person that has been there since the beginning of time, just along with everyone else. And so there's a way that you feeling like you're not the cool queer is part of that to me. It's like we're made to feel shitty about ourselves.
Yeah.
And now it just happens to be like instead of it being, the way I over the past few years, it's been like, oh, well, you and your privilege, you and your gay male privilege. And I'm like, tell me where this privilege is. I don't know. I don't see it. I have no money. I don't know. No one's knocking down my door. Um, so I don't know. I have complicated feelings about that.
I really love hearing that perspective, especially the first part of what you were saying, because I hadn't really thought of it that way. And it's been something that's been, now that you've named it, I could sort of see where that's kind of affected my uh, self esteem. I don't think is the exact right word, but I mean, there's been this part of me because my personality, I love, I'm going to stop myself before I get too therapy ish on this.
Yeah.
But there's been, like, I've never been someone that really fit into that part of being gay. I'm not like that decorative
Yeah.
sort of thing that gay, like the stereotypes about gay men. So there's been this feeling of not fitting into either world.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah.
I talk about how I have an unmarketable heart. I feel like I joke about it in Hologram Boyfriends how in the 2000s gay men went from being you know disgusting and diseased, considered that by culture, to being helpful to culture. Then you get your queer eye for the straight guy and the makeover helpers and the I'm going to pair that with a belt. You'll work great. And that became a way in for gay men to in media, I think, to make money and be part of the capitalist system. And so if you didn't do that well, then um, then you don't feel like you're you're a part of a great part of this. You're not part of society if you're not doing it well enough. And then this is so funny because this is all stuff that I've been thinking about and trying to figure out how to talk about it. But throughout all of the representations of gay men over the ages, there's always the gay villain, and the gay villain is a real deep one, and it's a real interesting one. So the way that the gay villain has consistently been, I think, in the media or in movies and television is the now with the advent of the beautiful hot gay guy, there's going to be less gay villains, but I think there'll always be gay villains in culture.
Yeah. I feel like we landed, like, the timeline that we share put us in, like, as when we were young, and when I was, like, coming of age, realizing I was gay, it was, like, right in the middle of the AIDS crisis.
Yeah.
So that was what I imagined gay to be, and it was terrifying. But then as we became more accepted, what was being accepted of us were things that I also didn't identify with. So there's this, so I think I'm kind of like putting together what you were saying about, at least pieces of it, like that sort of feeling of like, oh, but this isn't who I am. Like, where do I land in any of this?
Yeah.
Like, I really didn't want to, like, being gay was like this horrible, like, thing first that you die from. And then it became this thing that was like, well, I'm not, this isn't right either. It's really interesting.
Gay guys in particular are really easy to label. Everyone loves to label us, and I do it all the time. Like the way that, circuit gays, gay bears, there's always labels. There's labels out there, and and I joke when I do shows, I'll be like, the labels get really specific, and like if I was going to say, oh, he's like an architecture man, you'd be like, what do you mean? But if I say he's an architecture gay, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, yeah. The architect gay is like a type of person, or like the Hell's Kitchen gay, the West Hollywood gay. There's just, it's so easy for people to label and categorize us, and it's fun. And I've said this on stage too. It's like we're really easy to make fun of, aren't we? And we are. It's something about gay life. Like people love to categorize us, and if you don't fit those categories, that people don't know what to do with you. And I've suffered that professionally. Like I've had casting directors be like, I don't know what to do with you, like because I don't fit the kind of mold.
Mm-hmm.
So. And it's I'm not a sociologist, and I can't quite put my finger on why, but it's just the way that culture works with gay people in particular.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
Yeah, it makes it really. Yeah, I went through a period, like I think it was maybe right around circuit parties being like a very prevalent part of the culture, that I went through a whole like, okay, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore.
No.
Yeah. The book, we've been talking about the book, but exactly about the book, there's a piece of it that I really found interesting, especially after we talked before, where there's some live portions where you're telling part of your stories in front of an audience. I assumed before that they had come from they were actual performances, but you had pulled from your archive, but they were performed for the book. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. We decided that the editors and I decided, we wanted this to be sort of like, give it a little bit of a Seinfeld vibe. And since I talk about being a performer over the years, and I sort of talk about my career ups and downs. We wanted to put in live performance. Um, and so we arranged to do it so I kind of selected about an hour's worth of material from the book, and I really tried to make sure that it was sprinkled throughout the book, so you kind of get these nice interjections of live performance here and there. And we did it at one of my favorite places, the Parkside Lounge, which is a great bar, queer-owned bar in the Lower East Side. And my friend Ann Stevenson, who's this incredible producer, she has a really cool reading series there. She's helped produce it, and yeah, we recorded it there. It was fun, and the other way, this is like one of those things where the I can get myself out of depression if I just sort of trust that things are unfolding the way they should unfold.
Uh-huh.
And in 2024, I did a solo show at Joe's Pub, and I had a producer at the time who sent me out to LA to work with an acting coach and a vocal coach, and it really kind of helped ground me after years. I've never really studied acting. I've always learned by doing, but I think I needed like a real anchor about who I was on stage and how to present myself that I kind of had been missing. And so uh, the coaches kind of really helped ground me. And then before we recorded the book, I worked with this amazing vocal coach named Sean Pratt, who does a lot of voiceover work, and he gave me a lot of pointers on just recording in a studio and articulate, but also how to score what you're reading. So I did a lot of work in preparation for that too. So by the time that live recording came around, I felt like I was really much better trained than I used to be to speak into a microphone.
Uh it's the book is great, as in our previous conversation, but I really appreciate the live pieces because I mean it adds variety to what we're listening to, of course, but it presents you as a author performer in a way. Like it feels like it gives some depth to who I'm hearing from. So
Oh, that's
it's
nice to hear.
a really cool component.
Yeah, I'm really happy. It's not there's a lot of challenges to just this being an audiobook. People can't really get their mind around it. Some people are just like, it's a what? And I'm like, do you listen? I don't, so I get a lot sometimes people being like, oh, I don't really listen to audiobooks, I read. And I was like, well, do you listen to podcasts? And they're like, yeah, sure. Then I'm like, it's a podcast. So
Yeah.
people can get their minds around it for some reason. So there's a bit of a challenge with that, but I do really love the idea of the ease of it. You could I'm meeting you halfway. You don't have to sit down and read this. You can be chopping vegetables, you could be cleaning your bathroom, you could be walking your dog, and I'm there with you. And it's just a way for me to kind of connect in a way that's best for the listener, you know? Um, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's exactly how I interacted with it. And it was great because when I first started listening to it, because I would have told you I'm not an audiobook person.
Yeah.
I started it by like it was on a train ride, and I was like, I'm gonna keep good notes because I had already planned to talk to you.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, I was like, okay, this isn't workable to plan to just sit here and listen and take notes. So I started, listening, washing dishes, doing all these different things, and it added like it's a really interesting layer. This is another thing I've been thinking about a lot, like of the performance of the book, where
Mm.
now like I'm a part of it because it's a part of my day-to-day life activities,
Oh, that's so
where it
cool.
like weaves into
Yeah.
what my experience is in whatever given moment. So it's really cool to think about it that way, like another layer of performance of the book. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the exact right word, but
Yeah. 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 I love that.
yeah.
Um, and there are sound effects in the book as well. Um, the the producer Steve we had a really a good time coming up with the sound effects. It's very, they're for the most part pretty subtle. We didn't want it to be like, boing, didn't want it to be like too much of like a Foley art kind of thing.
Yeah.
But the sound elements themselves really add something special in my opinion as well, and I'm really happy with them.
Yeah. They landed. The pipeline one I really loved a lot. Like partly because I'm familiar with that experience as a
God.
fellow freelancey type person.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. So listen, we have to wrap this part of our conversation up.
Okay.
Like, it's such a cliche to be like, I could talk to you for hours, but I really feel like I could. The book is available everywhere that audiobooks are available. Is that right?
Yeah, Spotify, Audible. If those venues are not your thing, it's available on the indie Audible called Libro FM. You can also get it at Libby, which is like the library audio app.
So cool. You can get like library books
Yeah.
through Libby too. Like this maybe will be our bonus conversation. I've been reading books lately for the first time in a long time, so I'm having these things like, there's a library down the street from me. Have you guys heard of these places? So Libby is one of those. And Libro FM, that's the independent one you mentioned.
Yeah, it's sort of like it. I don't know if you know what Bookshop is, but Bookshop is sort of like the alternative to Amazon. And Bookshop, you can buy books and credit your sale to a specific bookstore. Same thing with Libro FM.
Yeah. God, as an avid reader for the last 6 months, I definitely know what what that is. Thanks so much for joining me for this second time. And oh, Mike, wait a second. I was about to name your website, but it's not what one would expect, right?
No, it is. Well, it's mikealbo.net.
Got it.
Yeah.
There's a whole story about this in the book, and I was like, yeah.
Yes.
So those are, if you're listening to this, links will be in the show notes. Thanks so much for joining me. Oh, and patrons, we're going to have a special bonus conversation, me and Mike. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And if you're not a patron yet, please stop by patreon.com/Michael Herron. Thanks again for joining me today.
Thank you.